Mike Johnson doesn't know what to do. But what he has done is attack Donald Trump. Because right now, Johnson and Trump both have never been in a weaker spot. Mostly because Mike Johnson gets his power as kind of Speaker of the House, but mostly a puppet from Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has no control over the Republican Party, a Republican Party that is seeing a slimmer majority than ever in Congress, with the passing of one member, the hospitalization of another, and more resignations. So Mike Johnson is trying to keep his coalition together, and sometimes that means attacking Donald Trump, which is what he did this morning as Greenland becomes a bigger issue that Donald Trump wants to talk about, and Mike Johnson clearly doesn't. We're gonna get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way and supporting our work. Now, before we get into what Johnson had to say, I want to start with what Chris Murphy said last night about why we need to start paying attention to Greenland a little bit more, and how it might be more than just and of course, a distraction for Trump from the Epstein files.
Just today, you're starting to see, some unrest in the Capitol. That is a place full of very dangerous guerrilla groups. What does he think our obligation is? Should, his chosen leader, Delcy Rodriguez, be disposed? That could get more messy. But the consequence of Greenland becoming an actual thing we have to worry about is earth-shattering, because it is the end of NATO. It is a massive interruption in the U.S.-European alliance structure. And if you listen, I think people are sort of tired of being told that they should care about Europe, but there is really no way to manage and confront the rise of China without the United States and Europe working together. And so Greenland, if he ever did anything to try to move there, would just be the biggest gift ever constructed for China, because they would get kind of a free ride to global primacy as the United States and Europe were at war with each other.
Is Donald Trump actually going to send our military to Greenland? It is crazy that we are asking that question. We asked it earlier in Donald Trump's administration, and things were going, enough for Trump, at least politically, that he decided the answer to that question was going to be no. Remember, JD and Usha went there for 30 minutes and no one wanted to meet with them. And someone on a military base got fired for saying that they didn't want to meet with him. Do we remember that? Like this is how long we've been at it. But I think we do have to take it more seriously, because Donald Trump sees the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall is that he does not have the support he thought he did within his coalition. There are many Maga Republicans who are turning on Donald Trump. They are resigning over it. And so his power grab is not going to come from the control that he has over his coalition. No, that's not going to be the case. The power grab that's happening right now is Donald Trump trying to expand his authoritarian project and trying to give some justification for the fact that he needs territorial expansion. It doesn't make any sense. But it also comes as we see Donald Trump in deep cognitive decline. And who is the one running these operations? Seemingly well, it's Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is supposed to be in charge of Venezuela alongside Marco Rubio, alongside Pete Hegseth. And who's advocating for more intervention? Well, it seems like it's Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth. Marco Rubio literally did right here. And it's what set Johnson off.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. They said the military option is on the table. So is the administration really willing to risk the NATO alliance by potentially moving ahead with military operations?
What I think the White House said yesterday is what I will tell you now, and I've always said. The president always retained the option. Every president, not this president, every president always retains the option. I'm not talking about Greenland. I'm just talking about globally. If the president identifies a threat to the national security of the United States, every president retains the option to address it through military means. As a diplomat, which is what I am now, and what we work on, we always prefer to settle it in different ways. That included in Venezuela. We tried repeatedly to reach an outcome here that did not involve having to go in and grab an indicted drug trafficker.
So let's keep in mind, as Marco Rubio keeps all options open, Congress's role in this. Donald Trump said Congress had no role in what he did in Venezuela, the illegal attack, kidnapping of Maduro, because he said it was a police action, right? It's not a military operation. But now Pete Hegseth is kind of claiming it's a military operation. If you want to send the military into Greenland, that is certainly a military operation, is the reason Senator Ruben Gallego is moving forward with a resolution for Congress to bar Trump from doing so. But he said he wants boots on the ground. The key is alluding to that. Katie Miller made the post. Stephen Miller went on CNN and was screaming about it. And they always, it's funny, come back to this idea that it's an important piece of territory for national security. They usually say that to guard against the Russians. Maybe that's a good reason to support Ukraine as well. But that's another thing. Stephen Miller seems adamant about this. So does Pete Hegseth. So does Donald Trump. But Republicans in Congress, they're pissed. This is a huge political anvil weighing them down. It's so toxic, which is why Mike Johnson could barely respond to a question about it this morning before. Of course, he went on to disregard Trump entirely.
I'm not going to take 1,000 gotcha questions this morning trying to pit me against the White House. It is. I've said I can't be more clear than I have been on this. I've given lengthy statements on it. You know where I stand. You know where the House stands. We're going to get a briefing today, and then we'll see how it develops. So,
why Mike Johnson doesn't want to answer a gotcha is because the people who will be getting him are the Republicans in his own caucus. A caucus at this point that is not even the majority, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, the passing of a California Republican, the hospitalization of an 80-year-old Republican in Indiana, has left Mike Johnson with no votes, no votes at all. And he does not have a majority at this point. And we're gonna see potentially Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat get filled that give Mike Johnson another vote. But then, Mikey Sherrill, who's just elected governor, is gonna have her seat filled. That, of course, would even things back out. Mike Johnson is not in a position right now, if he wants to remain speaker, to screw over anyone in his party, which gives someone like Don Bacon, who has threatened resignation, a lot more power. It gives someone like Thomas Massey, who is completely at odds with Donald Trump, a lot more power. But that is what Mike Johnson is worried about, because Donald Trump has completely lost his grasp on Maga. And so he knows that an invasion of Greenland would be incredibly toxic. He knows that it's not what his caucus wants. And honestly, Mike Johnson is in self-preservation mode right now. So he doesn't want to answer that question to upset Donald Trump. He doesn't want to answer that question to upset his base. But he did say one thing about Greenland, which runs completely counter to the Trump ideology at this point. I thought it was pretty interesting.
President Trump has talked about military action in Greenland. He said that there didn't need to be military notification or that this wasn't a war act in Venezuela. If there is military action in Greenland, would Congress need authorization? And also, would Congress need authorization for need to have power of the purse for control of oil in Venezuela?
okay, let me address them in turn. We're not at war with Greenland. We have no intention of being it. We're no reason to be at war with Greenland, okay? Everybody knows.
We're not at war with Greenland. Well, Donald Trump said this morning that he would happily leave NATO to go to war with Greenland. And Marco Rubio said the same, echoing the sentiment, saying that all options are on the table. So we could be. So where do you want to stand in this? Mike Johnson right now is a perfect microcosm of where the GOP is going forward, breaking all their promises, governing against what they ran on, and completely in the wilderness. Ideologically, that is the state of Maga. And Mike Johnson is a perfect example of that. He doesn't know what to cling to power for power's sake has usually been the mantra of the Republican Party. But they're in power, and they're certainly not going to take any more with their policies. Now, Donald Trump certainly believes he can with this new American imperialism, taking Greenland, taking Panama, taking Cuba, taking Venezuela. Of course, there's not a lot of structure or planning behind it, but it doesn't serve any domestic interest at home. And the domestic interest at home are what the America First ideology that Donald Trump reported to is supposed to be about. But Donald Trump said he was America First as a lie. It's never going to happen, largely because he wanted to be seen as the outsider, outside of the neocons and the traditional Republican establishment, the Mitt Romney, the Adam Kinzinger, the Dick Cheney, the Liz Cheney, the people who backed Kamala Harris. Donald Trump said that those people aren't America First. They're the neocons. They're focused on intervention, that they don't have your best interest in mind. That's who Donald Trump is running against, to use that as his justification for why members of his cabinet were comparing him to Hitler, why former career Republicans were coming out against him. He said that They're the neocons, right? They're the institution. I'm anti-institution. Well, when you're a two-term president and you're a two-term Speaker of the House, I'd go ahead and say you're the institution. And so these guys don't know how to frame themselves as fighting against the system. One, when they are the system. And two, when they're not fighting for anything except for oligarchs and oil executives. So that's the big problem with Mike Johnson right now. He can't frame himself as fighting against Biden. He can't rail against any institution because the institution is Trump, and he doesn't know what to do because any action he could take would be incredibly politically unpopular for a majority that is zero at this point and is going to be decimated in the midterms. And his own caucus members understand that. Do you think that Republicans in Congress who are trying to hold on to their seats really want to go to war with Greenland? Do you think that's what they think is going to get him across the finish line in the midterms? Absolutely not. So Mike Johnson is in a state of panic because he has no power. So he is butting up against Trump, sometimes accidentally out of fear of what he might say. Donald Trump has nowhere else to turn. He's doing this for several reasons. Of course, we have to talk about the expansion of his authoritarian project. Of course, we have to talk about this in the frame of Epstein and how Trump just wants us to move on. But we also have to understand that he's just flailing at this point. It's just flailing. So is Mike Johnson. They're just flailing. And I would not be surprised to see more resignations come. A reporter literally asked Mike Johnson today how he feels about his majority given a bad flu season could end it. Now, I don't want anyone to die. Well, actually, that's actually not true. I should stop saying that. I'm not going to do it. If the FBI is listening, but if, you're not getting your flu shot, which I need to get. So I just think that ultimately where I want to end here is that we kind of need to take stock of how Mike Johnson understands that Donald Trump is his biggest enemy in these midterms to it. Agree. It's why he doesn't want to comment on anything. It's why he's not responding to what Stephen Miller has said and how that colors the Republican Party going forward. How we're going to see more Republicans speak out against Trump. How Maga is going to be eating its own. It's just something really to look forward to because these people have never been ideologically driven. And now that they have to be because they're in power, it doesn't work. And so when they have to be to figure out their party going forward, it's going to be even worse. And we're going to be talking about it all every single day on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. You can also subscribe to my Substack. It's a great way to support the show. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let him silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.